Well, hello, everybody, all of our incredible participants for Dash and Bash. Welcome to what would normally be a place that we would be gathering together. I actually drove past the reservoir yesterday and thought, oh, this is normally the time of year when we're setting all the tents up and getting everything ready for our big time together today. But this is a different time we're in, and we continue to persist and move forward knowing how very important this mission is. So I thank all of you for doing this a bit differently this year. And so we're virtual, but we're so happy to have you here. And we have just an incredible time planned today. And we are so fortunate to have Dolores Huerta with us, who will be joining us a little bit at the beginning. And then, of course, for a large percentage of our celebration in just a bit. But before we do that, I want to check in with our incredible Vice President of Development and Marketing, Brittany. There's Brittany. Hi, Brittany.
Hello.
Is this not usually the time? Like, this is actually the time we'd all be eating and like celebrating, and there'd be music, right?
That's right.
But we're going to make this as festive as possible. But we do all of that for the main reason to raise money, right? The money we raise from this event, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, is so critical, and especially now more than ever. So we got to check in on what our goal is, and we're going to challenge everyone during this hour and throughout the day to stay motivated so we can hit that goal. So tell us where we're at, Brittany, and what we need to do.
So we are at $26,200. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. There is still time. I just did my Dash and Bash yesterday with my family. You can still do it today. So feel free to continue fundraising, but we are going to challenge everyone today to try to raise $10,000 more. So we are going to drop into the chat box the direct link where you can make a donation anytime during this program or beyond. And that's, of course, going to YWCA-bash.org. And if you want to make a gift today, but you don't want to make it online, you'd rather send a check, or you would rather make a gift through your donor advised fund, you can make that pledge by chatting me directly in the chat box and letting me know how much you're pledging so we can add it to our total throughout the program today.
Okay, and real quick, I heard hot off the press that we have a donor who wants to help motivate and inspire us today. So tell me a little bit about that.
We do. We had a donor who has very generously offered a $2,000 match. So they will match up to $2,000 of what we can raise today. So hoping that we meet that match and extend beyond to get toward our $10,000 goal. But we're so excited that we're already $2,000 on the way there.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to be checking in with you, Brittany, throughout today's festivities, but I want to go ahead and jump into our program. So we'll see you in just a little bit.
All
right. So our mission to eliminate racism and empower women means that we work towards right relationships with Native people. And I really want to start today by acknowledging the Boulder Valley history. In 1859, gold seekers looked to the hills west of Boulder to find fortune in Arapaho and Cheyenne hunting grounds. 12 years later, the city of Boulder was incorporated in direct violation of the Fort Laramie Treaty the U.S. government had with the tribes native to this land. In the words of the Right Relationship Boulder organization, we want to acknowledge that the land where we live today is the territory of the Hanoai, or Arapaho people. We honor Chief Left Hand, leader of the last Hanoai band, to spend their winters in the Boulder Valley. Many Hanoai people were massacred by the U.S. Cavalry at Sand Creek, Colorado in 1864. The survivors were forced out of Colorado to reservations in Wyoming and Oklahoma, where most Hanoai live today. In our daily lives, let us remember that the Boulder Valley is home to the Hanoai people and to many other tribes that also camped, hunted, and traded here for centuries. and that Native people of many indigenous nations live here today. And I'd also like to take a moment, there's so much that is going on in our country and during this time in our history. And I want to make sure we're lifting some of that up today. And some of it, of course, feels very heavy, but it's important for us to acknowledge it before we move forward. So we'd also like to take a moment to ground ourselves in remembering the women and men who are part of the social justice fight, focused on creating a just and equitable country for everyone. I'd like to acknowledge and lift up the recent passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Justice Ginsburg was a pioneer, an icon, a fighter, and an advocate for the rights of all Americans. Justice Ginsburg's lifelong work advanced justice with seminal decisions in the areas of sex discrimination, affirmative action, same-sex marriage, healthcare for all, the right for equal pay, and the defense of women's health rights. These decisions brought justice to all those whose lives were directly impacted and will continue to shape our nation for generations to come. And we'd also like to honor those who have lost their lives due to police brutality, including so many women of color like Breonna Taylor. This grounds us in why our collective work to eliminate racism and empower women is critical. I ask that you join me for a moment of silence. Well, as we move into now the part of our program that really is about why we're all here, our mission to eliminate racism and empower women. And as we talk about the trailblazers who have made sure that all of our rights are honored, it is so appropriate for us to have our very special guest with us today, Dolores Huerta. Dolores, can you come on for a second? Hi, Dolores.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be able to join you. This very special moment with the YWCA, one of my favorite organizations. And so I'm so happy that we're all here together, and let's make this successful. Okay, we need to raise the money. You.
Right. And so, Dolores, what would we say? Si se pueda? We can do it.
Si se puede con the YWCA Boulder, Colorado.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dolores. So we're going to be checking back in with you in just a little bit for the majority of the program, but we're so, so grateful that you're here. All right. So we'll check back in with Dolores in just a little bit. But I do want to talk about, gosh, all this work that all of you have been doing to raise money, to build awareness. So I want to make sure we're all grounded in the work we're doing here at the YWCA, but also for you to be able to understand the impact that those dollars are making. And I have to tell you, especially during this time in particular, I've been just so inspired and encouraged by how this community has come together to really support the important work that we're doing here in the community. So we're not new to this work in eliminating racism and empowering women. We are true to this. We get up, we'll do the work until injustice is rooted out, until institutions are transformed, and until the world sees women, girls, and people of color the way we do: equal, powerful, and unstoppable. And we strategically do this work and intentionally do this work using a framework of economic advancement for women, health and safety for women, and racial justice. And I want to talk a little bit about our racial justice program, because we've been doing this work for a very long time, and we will continue to do this work. And annually, more than 160,000 individuals participate in YWCA racial justice programs and services that increase awareness. They build coalitions, transform local and national inequities in such areas as employment, housing, and voting. And as you can see in these pictures from the time that we've started, YWCA knows that in order to lead charge against racism, we must also set the example within our own organization. African American and Native American women have been providing leadership in YWCA's movement since the 1800s. And because of the leadership of the women of color, in 1946, the YWCA began working for integration throughout the entire organization, adopting an interracial charter that established that wherever there is injustice on the basis of race, whether in the community, the nation, or the world, our protest must be clear and our labor for its removal vigorous and steady. And that work culminated in the addition of the elimination of racism to our mission statement in 1970. Every day, we do the work of justice, both nationally and in more than 1,000 communities nationwide. We provide services to advocate for girls and women and people of color. And because justice looks different in every community, our work here in Boulder County does too. Here in Boulder County, we're providing direct services to more than 6,000 individuals and families. And we've been doing this work in our community for more than 98 years. So let me tell you a little bit about the impact that we're making here as it relates to justice. What you see here, justice looks like providing opportunities that ensure equity for girls in the careers of the future. We're one of 2 pilot locations for our STEM E3 program, which is education, employment, and entrepreneurship. And we're working with girls of color between 5th and 8th grade to provide culturally relevant and empowering curriculum in coding, leadership, and career development. In partnership with Google, who funded the initial launch of this program last year, already here in Boulder County, more than 400 girls have completed a program in STEM since last September. And let me say, the girls who have continued to thrive in this, even during COVID and having everything moved virtually, within their 6-week program, these young girls completed nearly 400 hours of coding. Our Latina Achievement Support Program is working with high school girls to help them achieve their dreams with support tools and resources that have made it possible for, on average, 98% of our graduating seniors in the program immediately going on to post-secondary. And in the most difficult of times this past spring, all of the graduating seniors went on to post-secondary this fall. Justice also looks like education, empathy, and allyship to create a more open and inclusive community. Our Reading to End Racism program uses literature and trained volunteers to reach nearly 5,000 students by using books and activities to build knowledge and enforce anti-bullying. And in the past 4 months, anti-racist trainings provided by the YWCA here are educating more than 100 community members to take action in creating a more open and equitable community. Justice does not look like a pay wage gap between women and men in the same roles with the same education and experience. Supported by the Community Foundation, we're working to uncover the numbers and stories behind the alarming trends in Boulder County related to the pay wage gap. And we're also on the front lines for equal pay, immigration rights, voting rights, and many other issues, including accurate census count and voter registration. And finally, one of the programs so near and dear to so many of our hearts in this community is Persimmon Early Learning, formerly known as Children's Alley, providing the only quality drop-in early childhood care in the Front Range, serving more than 600 families every year. Justice in our community requires affordable quality childcare options. And because affordable quality childcare is so critical, we've created a model in partnership with social venture partners that's making it possible for us to expand our services to provide 2 new permanent classrooms at a below market rate for dozens of families. And during this challenging time, these past 6 months, we have stayed true to our commitment to this community and our mission. All of our programs have continued, shifting to a virtual program and reopening our early child care center in the beginning of May when things were most challenging. But we knew that our most vulnerable families on the front lines and essential workers needed to feel confidence that there was a safe, nurturing place for their children. The dollars you raise make it possible for us to do that. And so many of you have supported us over the months to be able to continue this work. And I have to say, I'm going to share with you today, because we're all friends here, and you get to be sort of a part of our special network here, is our latest project, which is the expansion to be able to welcome 24 new families into permanent care in our community. We've redone all of our outdoor learning environments for all of the children who attend, updated all of our classrooms, and also expanded our area to include a kitchen. So let me show you quickly. In May, and remember, right, this is the middle of COVID. There were many people I know who thought oh my gosh, how can we be doing an expansion in the middle of all of this? We knew how important it was. Donors knew how important it was. And so we moved forward. We persevered. So this is what it looked like before we were getting ready to redo it. We'd cleared everything out. And this is what's welcoming our toddlers, our infants right now in their outdoor learning environment. You can see this was where our preschool outdoor learning area was before we were redoing it in June. And this is what's welcoming our young students today. We really see this as an expansion of the classroom. You can see a couple of areas here for them to also be able to learn and really have it as an extension of our indoor classrooms. This was in June, our classroom areas where we were looking to expand and build our 2 new permanent classrooms. And this is what it looks like today. We will be welcoming in our first group of new students here in just another week or so. You can get a couple of pictures there. And this is the second classroom that we will then be opening up for families as we start the new year. This is where we use our nutritionists and wellness come together to create all of those wonderful, healthy foods for our children. And here is what the kitchen looks like today. So we've been busy here at the YWCA, no doubt. But we're here today to really celebrate what all of you have been doing and why you dash. And so we're going to take a moment to look at what some of you have shared with us as you've done your own virtual events. So let me we'll give just a second. All right. Wow. What an incredible group. How inspiring is that for all of us to see? And I'm sure if there's any of those types of messages or pictures you have that you still want to share, please send them to us. We'd love to post them and share them and inspire others as well. So now we get into our award winners, because all of you have done just such an incredible job to raise money for the YWCA. But of course, I want to thank our sponsors as well who have been with us through this. We just couldn't keep going the way we have without our incredible corporate partners. And so I want to recognize and thank Lily Sweets, who's been with us from the very beginning of Dash and Bash, Elevations Credit Union, Auto House Boulder. So Jim and Lisa Lesniak, thank you so much for your support. And then our wonderful in-kind sponsors as well, Sticker Giant, Amy Hayes Company, AOV Incorporated, and Runner's Roost. So if I had a group around me, we would be clapping. Thank you so very much for your support. Okay, so top individual fundraiser. Here we go. Elisa George. So Elisa George's goal, I believe, was to raise $3,000. And let me tell you, she is $10 short when I checked this morning. So if you're looking to even make a gift and you want to choose an individual, I'm just saying she's $10 shy of this incredible goal. And Elisa is also, not surprisingly, the team captain of our winning team, Heart and Soul. And Heart and Soul is a second-year team with Dash and Bash. Congratulations. They raised over $3,100 so far in their Dash and Bash efforts. And we thank them so very much. So congratulations. And now our largest team, the Racial Justice Warriors, there they are. And I would just like to say what's so incredible about this team is that it was so youth driven. I don't know if you can tell in this picture, but the ages in this group span, you don't see the littlest one in here who's 4 years old, all the way to our high school students who really came together and wanted to make a statement. So congratulations to the Racial Justice Warriors. And man, they came out with signs. They were the most spirited team as well. They even were recruiting other individuals to grab signs and to walk around their lake, socially distanced, of course, and you can see in their masks as well. And I love this category, most far-flung team. I mean, these are people joined us from around the country to be able to do this event this year. And you see beautiful Anna Lynn there, who is her team running from 2020, which I think we can all relate to. And Anna is from Lansing, Michigan. So congratulations, Anna, for being in distance, the furthest team to participate this year. And then our fastest virtual 5K runner, Graham Stoner. So congratulations. This was actually part of the At Links by Runner's Roost. And they emailed everyone separately with those times. But Graham right now is the quickest 5K in our event as well. All of those winners today actually have a VIP. They'll have some VIP time with Dolores immediately after today's program for all of their incredible efforts and making such a great impact. So I want to thank all of you. And before we move on, so I've seen the chat button going. So Brittany, it seems to me that people are stepping up to some of the challenge. Is that right?
They have. We're so excited to announce that we are $590 towards our match. So people have been making donations, including a donation from the YWCA Greater Los Angeles.
Oh, so, awesome.
Organizations, which is so great. And Nancy made a donation in honor of her mom. So that's always an option for people if they want to make donations in honor of. And so thank you so much. We're well on our way.
Great. All right. And Brittany, for those who know too, right, we have the rest of today for the match. And then we still have time to raise. Like we're not closing down that fundraising. It will be open. So
absolutely,
we can keep going. And here are some of the really great things, right? So if somebody raises $100,
they get a t-shirt. So this year's t-shirt has a very unique signature 2020 design on it with all the runners wearing masks. That's going to be something that I think we're going to remember for a really long time. So it's a great memento of 2020. And then also the mask itself that you get at $250. And then at the $500 level, we have some really great posters from Amplifier. So keep going with your fundraising, and we'll be having, we'll be distributing those gifts at the different levels in the coming weeks.
Okay, awesome. So we'll check in one more time with you at the end, Brittany.
Sounds good.
All right. So everybody get ready to get inspired is what I have to say. We, as you got a chance to briefly see Dolores for a moment at the beginning, talk about an organizer, a community organizer who has made such incredible change on so many fronts. And we all owe her such an incredible debt of gratitude. And she, as you can tell, never stops and still going. But we wanted to make sure before we have asked Dolores to join us, I want to share with you an incredible documentary. If you haven't seen it, please do. But we're going to show you just a little snippet of how incredible this woman is.
Dolores is an icon.
She's a civil rights hero.
She's the first general that I followed into war.
She's not afraid to speak truth to power.
Dolores Huerta, who is an old friend of mine.
The FBI knew how dangerous Dolores was. Dolores came up with the slogan, "Si se puede."
Yes, we can.
You were a young girl growing up in America in the 40s. You must have had a dream.
After I had seen the miserable conditions of farm workers, Cesar Chavez said, we have to organize a union. So you had this ambience all around you that you could really change the world.
It was beyond question the largest gathering on behalf of farm workers in California history.
I wish they'd all go back to where they came from. We had no labor troubles.
She wasn't asking for permission. She just did what needed to be done.
She has such a firm belief in what she's doing.
We've never given up.
That she infects you with it.
Dolores Huerta.
90,000 people were poisoned in the fields of the United States of America.
Farm workers founded the whole idea of environmental justice.
Men were threatened by her power.
She's a very volatile individual.
She's an insult.
People wanted to see her in a more traditional role.
I left a couple of my children behind.
That's part of the sacrifice that we made and that we had to make.
And it still pains me when I think about it.
People in power have no idea of the true heroes of this country.
I would not have been able to see what's hidden in the fields of our country without Dolores.
We're knee deep in sexism when it comes to why she isn't studied and why people don't know her.
Latina girls need to see statues of you. We were having set the record straight. I mean, women cannot be written out of history.
No with violence! Abajo! No with racism! Abajo! No with sexism!
The
Thank you so much. And thanks, Brittany, for sharing with us that really incredible piece. I want to invite Dolores Huerta to join us now for this incredibly special part of our program. Oh, hi, Dolores.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us here in this celebration of all of the great activities that the YWCA is doing. I am so proud to even be associated with the YWCA. I do want to say that my daughter, Maria Elena Chavez, is actually the director of a YWCA center in Walnut Park, California, which is near Los Angeles. So this makes me doubly proud. So I have been aware of many of the programs that the YWCA is doing. And I just want to say that the YWCA was a little ahead of the game because you came out with your slogan of racial justice. You know, that happened, I guess, over 5 or 6 years ago. Yep. And of course, empowering women has always been one of the standards of the YWCA, and you have been doing that for decades, we might say for decades and decades and decades, not only protecting women, but empowering women. And of course, now that we are celebrating 100 years of women's suffrage, and fighting for the Equal Rights Amendment. This makes it all, I think, the most, it makes it very, very historical that we are now together at this time when we know that women's voices, women's votes, women's leadership is so critical and so crucial. And we have seen how women's leadership can have such an impact on so many people in the community. And so I am very proud to be associated with the YWCA and also being there in Boulder, Colorado. Oh my goodness. You know.
We love you here, Dolores. Like I was talking to some of your folks about just how loved you are in our state and in our community. Anyway, so thank you for being with us. And we have like a million questions for you, but I only have enough time to ask a few, and then we'll open it up to some of our folks too. But you know, I think especially during these times, a lot of people, we see that all the incredible work you've done throughout your lifetime, like you are an activist. But what can we all do to be community activists? Because all of us can do something, right? So what does that look like?
Absolutely. I think we have to engage, and right now is the most important time for us to do this. Well, of course, right now, one of the things that we want to put as an immediate priority is, of course, to contribute to the YWCA, which is something that maybe it's not hard at all to do that. And we have to kind of make that little monetary sacrifice, you might say, to make sure that these wonderful programs that you are doing, you know, continue not only to function, but also continue to grow. The other thing is that I know we have big elections coming up right now in Colorado. In fact, the last time that I was in Boulder, I was at the college on the campus there, and we were then fighting against an initiative that would actually, you know, go against women's right to abortion, you might say. And guess what? There's another initiative on the ballot again, really, Colorado. You know, we've already defeated these measures twice. So now I guess we have to do it a third time. But the main thing is that we have to say to all women that, you know, we are living in a democracy, and our democracy cannot function unless every single person engages and every single person participates. The other great thing is that, you know, Colorado, I know you have been voting by mail for a couple of elections now, and it's been going very, very well. And here now you have this national debate saying, well, should people vote by mail? Is this fair? Is it proper? You know, can people's votes be counted? I think you in Colorado can say, yes, yeah, we know how to do it. We've been doing it. Okay, so people out there, don't be afraid to vote by mail. Okay, because and I'm sure that the YWCA is really getting out there also and saying to people that we have to do our civic duty and that we have to vote. And I cannot really congratulate you enough for because in the work that you're doing, you are really addressing the entire community, especially the children and our young people in the educational work that you are doing right there at the YWCA centers. And you know, the only thing that I regret is that we don't have a YWCA center in every single city in the United States of America. Wouldn't that be awesome if we could do that? Because you are definitely setting up the gold standard of organizations that do community work. We have our organization here, the Dolores Huerta Foundation here in Kern County in Bakersfield. So we kind of echo some of the work that you're doing, but definitely not all of it. But again, I just want to say thank you to the YW because you are really a great organization.
Oh my gosh. Well, and Dolores, you've set and paved the way for so many women. And every time I see you interviewed, and I actually had an opportunity to meet you at a YW reception at the United States of Women Summit in LA, which I'm sure you meet millions of people, but I remember what I walked away from that moment with was just, you're so humble about what you have done and contributed in this space. But, you know, I want to know, there must have been times and have been times and continue to be times where as a woman organizing and leading in this space, that it was really challenging. And so what is the mindset that we need to have that you've had to kind of help overcome those moments, right? Because part of this is, you know, you take 2 steps forward and 5 sideways and 2 back and 3 up, right? So what would you say to all of us that are in this space right now?
Well, the first thing we have to say is that women make a difference. And I'll amend that word to say feminists make a difference, because we know there are a lot of men out there that are supporters of the YW that are really care a lot about women's reproductive rights and about women's empowerment. And so knowing that we are the ones that really care about these issues, then we have to know that we are the ones that can make the difference. And if we don't get out there and do the work that needs to be done, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen without us. So we kind of have that responsibility and that obligation, to continue to get out there and engage ourselves in civic work to make lives better, and especially for our children, because we want to leave them a planet that they can inherit, and not one that is, as we see right now with I'm in California, where you all know we have horrible wildfires, and people have died because of the wildfires, and we don't want to see global warming. And so it's something we can always do. And, I saw Michael Moore on Broadway, and he said this, he said, when we get up in the morning, we wash our face, we brush our teeth, and then we should call our congressman or congressperson,
Yeah. Yeah. And you've seen that make a difference. I mean, I think, I'm so glad we're finally hearing this part of our history that includes you, Dolores. And I think a lot of us say, how come it's taken so long for us to hear about incredible leaders like you? But you've done so much to change legislation, like writing legislation early in your career too. So how important is it when we call our congressmen or we show up at their door? Why is that? Does that make a difference? Tell us, maybe give us an example, because I've heard when people know when Dolores is in Sacramento. That's what I hear.
Yeah, it makes all of the difference. And I like to kind of use kind of toilets as an example. You might say, what, toilets? Well, when we did the work with the farm workers, and we were trying to get toilets in the fields for the women that were out there picking our food every day, didn't have a bathroom to go in. And they could have bring in one of these porta potties. And of course they wouldn't do that because they wanted to demean and dehumanize the farm workers. And so, we finally got toilets in our union contracts, but it took us almost 10 years to get it into a law. Mm-hmm. And this is why voting and civic action is so important, because if we don't have something in a law that can be implemented, that can be enforced, where people can be held accountable, then what's wonderful, and I want to thank everybody who marched out there, that we bring attention to the issue, but unless it's in a law, it's really not going to happen. And I know that we were thinking about Judge Ruth Ginsburg, and how much the nation is going to miss her. But we also have to remember John Lewis, who passed away recently. Mm-hmm. And he was fighting for the right to vote. And so we do have that right to vote, but then we've got to really use it, because unless we use it, then nothing really changes. And because we have to elect people to all of our elected positions, people that are going to make the laws, and then we can force them to enforce the laws. Mm-hmm. So that's really important.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for lifting. I mean, there's so many heroes in this story, aren't there? So thank you for also recognizing Representative Lewis. One of the things we hear a lot, and as we've been doing a lot of our anti-racist training here in Colorado, I'm glad to see there's a surge of real interest and what can I do? But what does it mean for an ally to show up? What's different than, right? We want it to be a verb, right? Action oriented. So what does it really mean to show up being an ally?
Well, it means everything, because the one thing that we have to convey to everybody is that the power that you have is really in your person. And so when you show up, that means that your person is there. And for the anti-racial training, and I do have to repeat this every time I speak, is that we have to remember that we are just one human race, just one. We don't have a lot of human races. We have a lot of different ethnic groups, a lot of different nationalities, but only one human race. And our human race, it traces all the way back to Africa. Mm-hmm. This is where the first human beings started, Homo sapiens, and human civilization started in Africa. And then, of course, it spread all over the planet. And so if we can just remember that we are all Africans of different shades and colors. And this is one way that we can really deal with the whole idea of white supremacy, because if we can think of ourselves as being Africans, all of us, then, and we know that our human species survived because we had to take care of each other. We had to protect each other. We had to share whatever we had to share with each other so that we could survive on the planet. And so this is a message that I think we need to have going forward. And we know that women have been in the center of those policies because they needed to protect their children. And without women protecting their children, again, we may not have survived because we are really the weakest, you might say, of all of the animals on our planet. And had we not taken care of each other, we could have been lunch for the other animals.
Right. Well, and thank you so much for like bringing us back to that, because I think sometimes we forget like race is something humans constructed. It isn't a scientific, there's no scientific basis for it, even though those who were in hierarchy wanted us to think that it was, that there were these categories. So I really appreciate you, lifting that up. You also bring up, as you've been talking, I've been thinking about, there's so many of these issues, they all connect. I mean, they're all intersected. And so why is it so important for all of us to be working together, for all women's groups to be working together, for, all of the social movement types of activists? Why is it so important for us to be collectively working together?
Well, I think especially for our nonprofit organizations, because here we are doing this fundraiser for the YWCA. At the same time, we see that people are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on television to deceive voters, to influence voters. And wouldn't it be better if all that money would come into our nonprofit organization to do the type of work that you are doing and that my foundation is doing out here in California? So we are kind of the ones that we have to fill that void and fill those needs in our communities. And so by working together, I think we don't have the money, but we can support each other in doing this. So I think our communications with each other and to work in coalition is really extremely important, especially at this critical time in our nation right now. And within a democracy cannot work unless everybody participates. Otherwise, it's not a democracy. And so we have to we always remember that and why it's important for us to engage and why it's important, especially for us to vote.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, share with me a little bit. There's so much going on right now, and I hear this a lot too. Like, oh my gosh, there's so many issues to be focusing on right now. But what do you see as some of the biggest challenges we're facing as a country, especially as you've been an activist now for the majority of your lifetime? What are you most concerned about, and what do you think are the issues we really need to be focusing on?
Well, I'm 90 years old, and I have been through a lot in my life and seen a lot, but I have never seen a time when I felt that our democracy was in danger. When people are manipulating the agencies and the laws that we have to try to keep power and to try to deprive the working people. The working people are the majority of the people in the United States of America. We're not the minority. We are the majority of the working people, but people are being manipulated, by the media and by pronouncements and by legal procedures. And so I think we know that the United States of America was kind of an experiment to begin with in democracy, but it was completely based on people engaging. And so we have to be the truth tellers. We have to be the missionaries. We have to go out there and really touch as many people as we can and give them this message that they are important and they've got to be engaged, because we could lose our democracy. We have seen that happen in other countries. And so this is something that we have to fight for, because at the end of the day, the people that we elect to office are the ones that make the decisions for us. And they make the decisions that are going to affect our lives in terms of how much money, how many resources we're going to have. Right now, we know healthcare is a big major issue. And we know that not everybody in the United States right now has good healthcare coverage. And this is something that we should have, like they have in Europe, like they have in many places, even like Cuba, where people have universal healthcare, universal college education. And these are things that we should have because we are the richest country in the world. And I mentioned global warming earlier. My God, this is something that it's got to be at the top of our list. Jane Fonda, by the way, has been having this Fire Drill Fridays. And by the way, she just wrote a book. I would like people to refer to her book. It's, and all of the proceeds are going to Greenpeace. And the topic of her book is, what can I do? What can you do? What can you do? And this is exactly the question that you're asking me. And the one thing I have to say is all of us, we have to engage, and we really have to support organizations like the YWCA that is doing the work that needs to be done. And just get engaged in there. Be sure that we call everybody that we know, see if they're registered to vote, see if they're prepared to vote, and make sure that everybody that we know, and the people that for some reason can't vote because they haven't got their citizenship status or whatever, they can help get other people to vote too. If each one of us can call 5 people that we know and say to them, 5 people that you know, and another 5 people that they know, and we can spread this huge network of people calling everybody, please participate in the vote. We have to save our democracy in the United States of America. We've got to save our healthcare and improve it even better than it is now.
Yeah, gosh, Dolores, thank you. And you're such a natural organizer that I love it. You just gave people like a really easy, like, next step. And the other thing is make sure ourselves that we're registered. We just did a program on voter suppression, and that you don't realize, all of these different things, or if you didn't vote in the last national election, that you might need to re-register for this one. So those types of things. So I really appreciate that. So we are now opening it up to our audience, and we are letting them ask some questions. So I'm going to try to moderate these real quickly, Dolores. So here's a question. All right, and this is someone I know well, actually. It looks like this is from Maria Yankee. What are some ways that I can be a role model or empower my younger sisters to be strong and confident in their abilities?
I think the best way is to get them engaged. And I really love election time because there's always so many candidates that are running, and people are doing phone banking. And if they get engaged, and then right away they start feeling their own power. And actually by doing, I really think that the way we grow our leadership is actually by doing things. And of course, also setting an example for them, I think is very important. And also, letting them know where they can get informed on different issues, where to look for answers to the questions that they're asking, and kind of making them understand that they have power, that they are valued, that they are important. So no woman or no young person should ever feel that somehow that they don't count. Everybody needs to know that they count and that they matter.
So Dolores, when you were going through this, I'm sure you had moments where you might have questioned yourself, or others were questioning you. What did you tell yourself to keep yourself in that moment confident, strong, and moving forward?
Well, we know, as long as we know that we are sincere and that we are mission driven, that we know what we're trying to achieve, and it's not about something for us, but something in terms of helping other people. I think that really keeps us oriented, and it keeps us directed, and it keeps us grounded. And we know we're sincere, and even when people criticize us, we know that they don't quite understand what we're doing. And so we don't want to get angry with them because they're not ready to hear our message. But we have to just have faith in ourselves, and faith in other people too, even if that person is not ready to hear our message at the time. But we shouldn't give up on people. We should keep trying to enlighten people, especially on the issues of women's reproductive rights, and especially on the issues of racial and economic justice. We just keep talking. Organizing is just about talking to people until they understand, and then recruiting them to get engaged and to helping out on our social justice mission.
That's right. Thank you. Our next question comes from Bridget, who says, how can we encourage the young population to vote and become more active in democracy?
I think we can remind them that we're really fighting for them, that this is the world that they're going to inherit, that they're going to live in. And so they have to fight to make sure that they kind of create the world that they want to live in. Where they can get the type of education that they need, that they shouldn't be deprived of an education because they're not wealthy. And these are things that can really happen, but they also have to get engaged in doing that. My children From the time that they were 6 and 7 years old, they were out there passing out leaflets. They were walking on picket lines. They were joining marches and, putting out the literature that we needed to tell people. So if we can get our young people engaged at a very young age and let them know again, that they can make a difference. When we look at the young students that have been marching against climate change, the Gretas of the world from Germany. If we look at the young people from Parkland, Florida, that have been marching to get rid of gun violence. These are the young people that are out there, and we have seen so many of them on the marches. So I want to just thank them very much for being out there, for being active, and to let them know that they are very sorely needed, and that they definitely can make a difference.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right. Question from Ginny Corsi. What inspires you to keep that wonderful positive energy that you have? And by the way, can I just remind everyone, I mean, I think this is incredible. You're 92, and I feel like you look probably a day older than I am with your energy and so I am with Ginny. Tell us what inspires you.
Well, actually, I'm only 90.
Oh, 90. I am sorry, Dolores. I just gave you 2 extra years.
I hope I can get there to 92. Okay, I'll keep trying to get there to 92.
We're so glad you're here. You're 90. Either way, like, it's incredible. I mean, you really do. You exude this incredible positivity, but also just this incredible spirit. So tell us your secret.
Well, I think my secret is just that I want to keep trying to reach more people, because the more people we can reach, the more people we can empower, which is, of course, what the YWCA's slogan is, to empower, and especially empower women. And the more people we can reach, we know that we are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And so if we become really, really strong, that means that no matter how much money the people that are against us have, that it won't make any difference, because at the end of the day, we, the people, have the power to make the difference. And I am inspired by, as I said before, by all of these young people that are out there marching. I am so grateful to them, because of the COVID-19 virus. I haven't been out there to be on any of these marches. So when I see all these young people out there marching, it just fills my heart. And the fact that we're calling out the issues very, very publicly, the whole issues of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct with the Me Too women, with the women marching, and the people that are out there marching because of the injustices and are Black and brown people getting killed by police. These are the things that really inspire me, because, I think if we think of maybe just even 5 years ago, we would have wished that this was happening, and now it is happening. But we also have to promote nonviolence, because we can win through nonviolence, and when violence it intercedes and it injects itself in what we're doing, it really damages, and it puts a stain on the work that we're trying to do. So I would include that to make sure that anything that we do, that we incorporate that into our movements, and that is nonviolence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Dolores. And gosh, you were such a leader in that, and so vocal in your movement about being able to make change without violence. So let me ask you this: how did you know, when you were in so many of the moments throughout your time as a community activist, how did you know when people were starting to get uncomfortable, that what you were doing was making a difference, and that you were starting to hit on that chord, right? That moment where you're like, okay, we're making something's starting to change. So maybe that's even like the grape boycott, where, of course, then Nixon started sending grapes to Vietnam, and you're like, oh, but what are those moments for you, as you think back upon your career in this, when you could tell that the establishment was getting anxious and what you were doing was working?
Well, kind of when they change their position.
Okay.
That's when you know that you win. When you have people that are totally opposed to what you're doing, but then when you win, then you know that they have to join you, and that they literally lost the contest or lost the match, because we actually won. And we can think of that. You know, again, I've been watching all these documentaries about the women's suffrage movement, and it took them decades and decades for women to get the right to vote, but they never gave up. They never gave up. And I think that's a position that we're in. And in our current struggles that we have for social justice, for women's empowerment, for racial justice, we don't have to wait decades. And the reason we don't have to wait decades is because we've got our cell phones, we've got our computers, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got all of these devices that can help us spread information very rapidly and bring people together, mobilize people very rapidly. So we've got all of these tools at our disposal that we didn't have when we were out there organizing farm workers. So we can make things happen very, very quickly. The main thing is the more of us that get involved, the more of us that get engaged, the more of us that empower organizations like the YWCA, the faster we can reach those goals of equality that we so desperately need in our country.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Dolores, thank you so much. I just got chills as you were saying that. I know I feel even more inspired and motivated, and we thank you so much. I know we're going to be coming back to you for a VIP session in just a few minutes, but we'll say goodbye for this part, and thank you so very much. And I'm going to come back to Brittany. I think we're going to come back to you to talk about where we are in our fundraising. My goodness, if Dolores Huerta can't inspire you, I don't know who can. Right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dolores. I mean, you can tell that you are a natural organizer and fundraiser. When you said, what can people do right now? They can give. I'm a professional fundraiser. You're speaking my language. So thank you so much for that. And people have been giving. So we are at $890 towards our $2,000 match. That's almost halfway there. Wanted to let people know, if you're watching this on YouTube live right now and you're not seeing the links that are going into the chat, you can access the fundraising page at ywca-bash.org. So feel free to go there and make a gift if you're still planning to give. And also just want to let people know that if you're feeling inspired, this entire session, this celebration is going to live on our YouTube page. So go to YouTube YWCA Boulder County to find it and share it with your friends and family and let people know about what you learned about today and how you feel inspired. And of course, if people want to give, they still can. So we'll have those links active on our Facebook page, on our website. And so thank you to everyone.
That's great. And so I know when we get finished today, I'm going to send another email out, because there's always a few folks that are like, oh, I forgot to give. You know, so great. I saw the link again. And I think even just being able to share what we've all been inspired with Dolores today. So I'll definitely I have many, thank you so much, Dolores, so much wisdom. I don't even know where to start, but I know that I'm going to be sending another note out to all of my donors as well for our team. So with that, what I will say is thank you all so very, very much. We are looking forward to having everybody back in person at Dash and Bash next year at this time with great weather and everybody safe and healthy. But until then, we wish you well. Be well, be healthy, and stay connected. We'll stay connected with you. So many great things going at the YW. So with that, we'll say goodbye. Dolores, we'll see you in a minute. And everyone have a great Sunday.